Hello everybody, I am back. I meant to do this a bit earlier, but I had an infection in my face somewhere. The doctor couldn't find it, and it made this half of my face just swell up. Not that much, but it made me look Asian. Not that there's anything wrong with being Asian, it just made this half of my face look Asian, and I look quite ridiculous. My upper lip is still a bit stiff, and a little bit swollen, but you can't tell in video, so it's all cool. But I am back to review the best of John Zandig, Volume 2. I'll rate this slightly above the first one, and the reason for this is not because of the shoot interview, which I'll talk about now, but rather because of the matches. Anyway, onto the shoot. I didn't feel this was quite as good as the first part. I mean, the things he was talking about, while interesting, they just didn't touch how interesting the first part was. I thought part one was more interesting because we got more of a personal side to, Zandig, the both, as a personality in wrestling. We got to discover who he really is, where he came from, what got him into wrestling, what he liked in wrestling that made him want to get into it. And this, he kind of doesn't really continue that. He speaks about a lot of things that are only relevant to the CZW fans, and so if you're not a diehard CZW fan, or you're not aware of the incidents he speaks about, it might not be as interesting to you. Now, I found it interesting still, but I just didn't find it as interesting as Volume 1. A lot of the things he speaks about is, certain wrestlers, what he feels about them. I found the part when he speaks about going over to Italy, CZW did a few trips to Italy. I found that entertaining. They did the show in front of a really large crowd, and they did the ultraviolent style, like thumbtacks and chair shots and all that kind of stuff. And the fans, not being used to it, were crying and freaking out. He speaks about the differences, or what he feels are the differences between IWA Mid-South, death match style, and the CZW death match style, where he called it like hack and slash, the style of IWA Mid-South, where they hit each other in the head with stuff or what have you, and then just do a massive blade job. And he's correct. When you watch IWA Mid-South matches, he's correct in saying that they hit each other and then just blade, because that's what they do, and they don't really do that to the same extent they do in CCW. But we also get an idea of what he thinks is good and bad wrestling, what he felt was the CZW style from his perspective, which is the big bumps, the big spots, that kind of stuff. He felt that's what the fans wanted to see, and that's why CZW's continued to do it. So you kind of understand it from his perspective. He speaks about Ian Rotten in depth and what he doesn't like about him, and not so much about what he does like about him, I don't think. But it's very interesting stuff when he talks about Ian Rotten. And I would say that it's really not inconsistent what other people have said about Ian Rotten in the past. Or some people have said about Ian Rotten in the past. One thing I found really interesting is, this is before, he's saying this is before CZW used glass, and Ian Rotten used a bottle on my head and smashed it over my head. And I'm like, you fucker! And I wanted to kill him because he used glass and the thing. It's like, and then you look at CZW now, half of what they do is using glass, at least in the arena. In the Tournament of Death, they used glass light tubes instead. But yeah, I found that interesting in how Ian Rotten didn't want to take the motherfucking bomb from the top of a scaffold, I believe it was, or the top of the cage of death. Was it the cage? I can't remember now, actually. But yeah, so the interview, and often he just starts talking about things he's already spoken about. So if you've seen part one, you might find it quite irritating, where he will just start talking about something he's already spoken about. One thing I found really interesting, and not because it's interesting in terms of he's saying something that I didn't know about wrestling or what have you, but he's sitting there saying fuck this and fuck that, and liberal use of the word fuck. And then I think it's his kids come home, and they start running around the house while he's doing the interview, like behind the camera and all that kind of stuff. And instead of saying fuck, he replaces it with the word frig. So instead of the liberal use of the word fuck and fucking, it's frig and friggin'. So I found that a little bit interesting. Maybe thought, he's a better dad than I thought he might be. At least I think those are his children. I hope they're his children. They might be his grandchildren. I don't know. He's got a 28-year-old son. But the matches are really what puts this above the first part. The first part I complained about the match quality, not being able to see much. It's a convoluted mess of crap happening on the screen. This has, 3 matches which I would consider, all-time classics in deathmatch wrestling, which is the no-rope barbed wire match between Zandig and Lobo. And to put this in context, this match, no-rope barbed wire match hadn't really happened in the arena for, I think, 5 years. and that was the last one was Terry Funk and Sabu in ECW. So the crowd was just red hot for this match, and I would say it was quite a good no-rope barbed wire match. And I mean, any people who would really criticize, really go into depth with their criticisms of it. A lot of the stuff you could criticize this match for, being guilty of in terms of bad wrestling, you could really criticize ECW's barbed wire match for as well. Of course, in the shoot, he says, "Oh, this match is better." I wouldn't say it's necessarily better. I would say because it's more recent, it hasn't aged as poorly, maybe. But still, I really like Zandig versus Lobo. I'd give it 4 stars, and for a deathmatch to get 4 stars from me means it's fucking good. The no-rope barbed wire fans bring the weapons. I quit match between Wifebeater and Zandig. People also think this is one of the most historic matches in CZW history. It's just so over the top in its violence. It's just so over the top in so many ways that you can't help but really. I mean, it's not for everybody, but as somebody who watches a lot of deathmatch wrestling, when I'm watching it, even by today's standards of deathmatch wrestling, I'm just like, Jesus Christ! And it's one of those matches which probably won't be topped in terms of sheer violence for a very long time, and maybe for a very good reason. But it's also got a lot of emotion in it, and I would say has got a fantastic ending, whether it be by design or just chance it happened. But the ending of it is fantastic. And also Joker versus Zandig from 2004 in a death match from Ultraviolent Underground, I believe it was. Maybe it was CZW. But that match itself is also just amazing. The star ratings will be in the bottom for most of them. Some of them I won't be able to do because they were shaky cam. But yeah, I'd give this DVD a 7.25 out of 10 instead of a 7, like I gave the previous one. And so for CZW fans, if you haven't seen these matches, or if you're interested in checking out something from CZW, or interested in hearing Zandig talk about things, I would say this is the DVD for you. So, yeah, 7.25 out of 10. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't go far as to outright recommend it. It's just recommended for fans of the genre. So, thank you. Take care. I will have some more reviews shortly.